Ted, I want to start just kind of asking you, what did you feel like on that stage? What was it like to look out on that field and know that you were a Hall of Famer?
Well, it's pretty special after I finished with the speech, but I just talking to Larry Walker a moment ago, I said, only felt this morning, I only felt like this one other time in my life. He said, what's that? I said, this morning I woke up, felt like the morning of the 7th game of the World Series with that kind of anxiety and that kind of anticipation, which at this point is all gone. But I recognized the feeling this morning. It happened one other time in my entire professional life, and it was the morning of the 7th game of the World Series, 1982, Milwaukee and St. Louis. I felt the very same way this morning.
That's great. We're going to start with a question from Sweeney Murdy. Sweeney, go ahead and please unmute yourself.
Hi, Ted. Congratulations. You chose to end your speech in a way that I don't know a lot of other people have, with a Beatles lyric.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to why that particular lyric and how long that's kind of been sticking with you in your mind and why you chose it.
My wife and I have been together a long time, very long time. You can look that up. I'll not disclose it, but we go back to that era, and Abbey Road, the end. Beatles were raging, and I wouldn't call myself a Beatles freak or nutbag that way, but that lyric has been with us a very, very long time. And when I started contemplating the speech, I knew in one form or another, when it got time to talk about Marianne, that lyric was going to play. You got it.
Our next question is from Fago Franklin. Fago, please unmute yourself.
Hey, how you doing? What does it mean to you that you had so much of a positive influence on and off the mound when you were a player, as well as what you have done for the community?
Well, when I was interacting with players back in those days, I mean, I've always felt, what information I had or had come to understand and feel comfortable with and confident about, it wasn't really my, information. It was like to be shared with everybody. And so, I had a knack for, making things clear quickly in ways that people could get it. And so I always felt it was almost necessary, if I knew or understood or got some insight, I felt responsible to convey that to people who could use it in the same way I did. So I was always that way. And then, of course, I assume you're referencing the art collection my wife and I have just delivered to the St. Louis Art Museum. That was a way for us to give back to that community who had done so much for us, having come from the Detroit area, and that community adopted us. And so when you interact with a community, you have a similar responsibility. And so it's connected that way. That kind of transfer, that connection is related in a way.
Our next question comes from Tyler Kepner. Tyler, please unmute yourself.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, Ted, fantastic speech. That was bravo to you for that.
Thank
you. You mentioned the breadth of your career, including your days as an executive, general manager, and so on. And Derek has gone on that path now too. How did you find that in terms of fulfillment compared to your playing career? And how do you think he, will find it as the years go on?
Well, he'll find it on his own path, but the paths he ends up taking will be very similar to mine. I came to a conclusion after my playing days were over, that at that crossroads, I had decided you're either going to stay in this uniform and go on and become a coach or manager or something, and remain on the field, which meant stay in the uniform. Well, I'd been in a uniform since I was, 9 years old in the Little League programs and spent my entire life in one. And I had come to the conclusion I wanted out of that. And so I went to the left side, which was the administrative side, which put me on the path of the executive side, the inner workings of baseball, and found that hugely stimulating, even as every bit as much as my playing career was. Now, there's nothing like playing. There's nothing like standing at home plate, knocking that ball and hitting that ball in the nitro zone and watch it go 400 feet. There is nothing better than that. I don't have any illusions. But the other side, it opened me up to the whole industry, to the whole baseball community. And I found out who the scouts were, who they, what they thought and where they were. And then the same thing with the general manager side. It opens up in a way that you can't ever dream of seeing as a player. And so once I started down that administrative path, as opposed to staying on the field in uniform, I knew it was the right thing for me. And I know, Derek is so stimulated in so many different ways and seen so much. I mean, he's like me. He knows there's nothing better than the plan, nothing better than knocking that ball. But he's looking for new stimulation, and you can see it all over him. And he's gonna have success there, clearly.
We got time for one or two more questions. Our next one comes from Owen Perkins.
Okay.
Owen, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Ted. That was really powerful comments you made about Marvin Miller, and among the most powerful I can remember about another inductee. Was that relationship there from your playing days, and were those values and that side of the game something that mattered to you as a player? And can you talk about how you got involved in that aspect of the game?
Yeah, well, back in those days, when the reserve clause was in full, flood. I mean, complete. There was no in or around it. It was the day, and the pressure to be, for instance, a player rep or even an alternate representative in the Players Association was a very dangerous place to be. And so when you look back in those early days and you see Torrey, you see Seaver, and you see Gaylord, and you see those guys as the player reps, it was reason, because they could stand up to it knowing that the management side of baseball would hurt them last. And so you didn't see up and coming young people who were vulnerable to begin with in those roles early. And so it was almost a rite of passage for the next guy who was like armed and serious and talented, so he couldn't be as vulnerable as some of the others. And so it's almost something that is not thrust upon you, but you're exposed to early, and the responsibility is given to you. I heard it from Dal Maxfield. I heard it from Joe Torrey, who were both on the Weber side of that whole issue in my early days with the Cardinals. They were the guys, and there's a reason they were the guys. They could stand up to the management side and survive it.